Morning everyone, my name's Simon, I'm an addict. It's good to be here. Sunday morning as a using addict, the worst, right? The worst day of the week for me in addiction. None of them were very good, but Sundays I reserve a particular kind of terror for, because I'm an addict. I don't have the capacity at 2 o'clock Saturday night, Sunday morning to go, oh, do you know what, I'm going to wake up bang in trouble tomorrow, so I'm just going to plot a little bit of gear up for when I wake up. I don't have that capacity. I never had that capacity. So I just use until it's all gone. And I'll deal with the consequences later, whenever it is I resurface on a Sunday. And what that really meant for me was whenever I would kind of wake up, wherever it was, I woke up in my flat that had no gas, electricity, carpets, you know, that kind of thing, or a crack out, or wherever it was, I would wake up gripped by fear that I'm now going to have to find a shop that I'm not banned from in Stoke Newington, that I can steal something from, and then find someone I can sell whatever rubbish I've stolen to in order to get some drugs that aren't going to work. That's addiction for me. That's how it was for a really long time. So Sundays presented a bigger problem than the rest of the days of the week because a lot of the shops were closed in the old days, olden days. And most of the shops in Stoke Newington where I lived and used and still live just wouldn't let me in, so I'd have to get out of my little comfort zone and head off somewhere else. And I'm just getting a sort of sense of gratitude, you know, that my life is so far removed from that these days. It's strange. I got a cup of chamomile tea here and I don't know what someone said to me, oh, that'll calm you down. I'm like, if only it was that easy, right? Fucking hell, I wouldn't need to be here, would I? I just have had a 25-year chamomile tea habit. And this cup's a bit... So it kind of means nothing to most people in this room, but this cup has a little kind of picture on it. It says, Jesus was my homeboy, Teenage Millionaire. And Teenage Millionaire were a band that were formed by a member of NA who is sadly no longer with us. Adam Green was his name. He was an amazing musician. And he had a lot of time clean in this fellowship. And he forgot step one. I don't know why he forgot, but I know that he forgot. And he went out and he never came back. And he was one of those people, when I cleaned up, I'm a musician, I looked at him and thought, I want what you've got. I want that life. You're fucking cool, man. Do you know what I mean? He was he had a couple of kids. He was off playing music all around the world. He had an amazing life. And he got clean in NA and he'd stuck around. And there's a real power in that for me. There was and there still is a real power in that, you know, that by attraction, not promotion. You know, I want what you've got because it looks and is certainly much better than what I had when I stumbled back into NA. And I kind of miss him, and I lost another friend who was also in this fellowship for a number of years, and he forgot. You know, we got clean at the same time, and I'm guessing about 7-8 years ago, we went to a social event and he was drinking a pint of Guinness. That was the most expensive pint of Guinness he'd ever had in his life. He died last Sunday. He never got back. And I remember him talking to me, going, no, I'm all right, I've sorted it. I've sorted out my stuff. You know, I've been clean. I'm just going to drink, you know, have a Guinness. And they found him dead last weekend in a hostel in Cambodia with a needle hanging out of his arm, you know, because he forgot too. I haven't managed to forget for 12 and a half years, a day at a time. And it's really horrible to be reminded by those people that are no longer with us what this is really about. Because for me, this is a simple question of life or death. That's how it is for me, you know, and anyone who knows me will tell you, you know, I can sometimes seem a little bit irrelevant to the fellowship sometimes, and I'm not maybe not serious as some people would like me to be, and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, this is a serious business for me, because this is about life or death. You know, I'm not the kind of addict who plays with addiction. I didn't play with it when I was using, and I try to not play with it too much in recovery. Had I attended every funeral I could have attended in the last 12 and a half years, you know, I kind of stopped going. I haven't been to many weddings. You know what I mean? I've seen a few people in treatment when I worked in treatment thinking they were going to get married, you know. Yeah. So, step one, we admitted we were powerless over our addiction. Our lives had become unmanageable. I went to residential treatment 7 times, starting in the early 90s, and my last stint was in the early 2000s. I went to various detoxes, inpatient detoxes, 10, 12, 13 times, I forget, a lot. I took myself away to other areas. Sometimes I was fortunate enough to take myself to the other side of the world. And every time I went into one of those places, every time I went into an institution, every time I barricaded myself in my little flat in Stoke Newington and saying, that's it, every time I meant it. You know, I didn't do it because I was having fun. I didn't go into rehab because my life was going well. I went because my life was a mess. And I was a mess, and I was dying. I went to treatment centres in the 90s that were opposed to the concept of addiction being a disease, were opposed to 12-step recovery. This was my last choice. You know, I say that all the time. NA was absolutely my last choice. I had to iron out every other possible way out of this for years, none of which worked for me. They might work for other people. This isn't the only way to recover. But for someone like me, this is the only way. This is the you know, it's the best and worst gig in town, right? You know. But I had to try everything else first, and in that trying everything else, that's when the body count goes up. You know, that's when, in my experience. You know. So once I'd ironed out all the non-abstinent-based 12-step treatment centres and found myself going into treatment centres that carried this message or tried to, my disease was working its arse off to tell me that I didn't have it. My disease was working its arse off to be as honest as I might need to be in order to not get kicked out, and convince my then wife or whoever was close to me and was waiting for me to get cured, because, you know, that's what I was promising them, you know. And that somehow, if I could just stop for a bit, deal with the childhood trauma that I experienced, and I sadly experienced a lot of it, that I'd be able to become a normal, functioning member of society, and I would be able to spend my Sundays in the White Hart in Stoke Newington with a pint of Guinness, having a Sunday roast, reading The Guardian, going, fuck me, Everton are shit. Delusional thinking. Well, maybe not the last bit. I really wanted that. I still really want that. There's a part of me that still would like that. But it's just not my reality. It's not my reality, you know. And it was only when I'd somehow managed to not die in that 15 years of trying to find another way out, because the first 10 years of my using was fucking fantastic. You know, I'm 50 years old. I was lucky enough to see some amazing bands in the 80s and go to festivals when you could jump over the fence, and you know, it was all good. It was all good. There's some really good stuff, and I wouldn't change a bit of it. But at some point, you know, we talk about crossing this line where the darkness sort of descends, and the good times are just sort of fleeting glimpses, and then the last 10, 12 years of my addiction was a nightmare. Not just for me, but for anyone who cared about me, you know, and I do well to remember that as well. You know, lots of promises, you know, I'm promised this time is going to be different, I just need to sort this, you know what we say, it's like rearranging the chairs on the Titanic, right? It's a waste of time. You're going down. Other people could tell me, and did tell me, some of them quite forcefully, that I needed to stop using everything. And I'd be like, yeah, but. There was always a but, you know. It's because this, it's because that, whatever, you know. So the admission that I required, had to come from myself. And it had to be something that I felt and not thought. You know, it had to be something that, when I looked at it on paper, when the sponsor that I got this time round asked me to do some writing, and thankfully he knew me far better than I knew myself, and he said, I don't want an essay. He says, you're really good at writing essays, you know, you think you're a bit smart like that, you know. I'm going to keep it really simple. So what I want is 15 examples of you clean, and then what happens when you pick up a drug. Just keep it really simple for now. He said, because, you know, I'd asked him to sponsor me when I was like 60 days in. And just, if you are new here, I got clean in NA. I got clean in these meetings, you know. Yeah, treatment was great for a lie down, you know, and I probably learned some stuff in every one of them. I didn't process or believe any of it, but it went in, you know. It's only kind of years down the line that I sort of realised what I learned. Where did I learn that? Fuck me, I'm clever. Oh, no, someone else said that. You know. So when I, June 2006, 7.5 stone, wringing wet, covered in abscesses, long hair, yellow, dying, nowhere left to go. No more treatment, no more funding. Just this, NA. There was nowhere else to go. Death. And I phoned the NA helpline. I was at my partner's flat in Maida Vale, sitting on the window ledge, trying to summon up the bottle to throw myself out the window. Fortunately, I had some character defects that are really quite useful. One of them is vanity, because I remember thinking to myself, if I don't die, I'm going to be in a wheelchair the rest of my life, and that's not a good look. And the other thing is, I'm a coward. I get scared, and I didn't actually have the bottle to throw myself out the window. And the other thing I am, as anyone who knows me will tell you, is I'm a fucking drama queen, and I was really hoping that someone was going to run in the door and go, don't do it, Simon, don't fucking do it. No one was going to do that, because no one fucking cared anymore. I pushed everyone away. No one could afford to care about me. My sister, my mum, they'd had enough. They'd had 20 years of it. They'd really had enough. And they'd sort of said, you got one more shot at this. And my sister called me and she said, your nephew, Jacob's going to be 10 in 2 weeks' time, and he wants you to take him and his friends ice skating before you die. This is coming from a 10-year-old kid. You know. And somehow that sort of exocet of truth managed to evade my very sophisticated bullshit system, and it kind of hit home that I had this 10-year-old nephew who looked up to me and wanted me to take him ice skating, and I had 2 weeks to get clean. And my sister said to me on the phone, no methadone, no, clean. And I went to stay with my partner at the time, and she said, you can stay here. If you use, you're out. If you steal anything, you're out. If you do steal anything, I'll call the police and I'll tell them about all the other shit you stole off me as well. Take it or leave it. That's your offer, you know. And And I was obviously stoned out of my face when I went, yeah, no, it's fine, I'll do that. I was always going to get clean after I'd had a hit, you know what I mean? Tomorrow, right? Tomorrow I'm going to sort it all out. Yeah. So tomorrow arrives and I'm banging trouble and it's suddenly not such a good idea. And there I am on the window ledge. And I rang the LA helpline and I asked them where the nearest meeting was and they said, where are you? And I said, I'm on a window ledge. They said, can you be more specific? I made a veil. And they gave me a meeting in Lambert Grove, at the Den in Lambert Grove, where I first met Archie over there. And I walked to that meeting, and I always share this, it took me 2.5 hours to go from the window ledge to the meeting because I was that unwell. I could probably skip it in 20 minutes today, you know. And the point of all that is, I got to the meeting, and there was a committee that were doing service, so the meeting was on. The door was open, there was a cup of tea, there was someone doing a chair, no idea what they said, can't remember. And I walked into that meeting and I've never used again. Because what happened in that meeting, I believe, was that I finally got an understanding of step one. Not an intellectual understanding, but a deeply profound internal surrender and understanding that I'm powerless over my addiction and that my life was unmanageable. It was equally terrifying as it was profoundly inspiring to get to that point. I say this with the benefit of a lot of hindsight. At the time I was just sitting there going, fucking hell, crying. And so I asked this sponsor 60 days in when I was still really, you know, physically not that great to sponsor me, and he said, get 90 days. I was fuming. Fucking 90 days, don't you know who I think I am and all that, right? Get 90 days. So on a resentment, which is another transferable skill that we have, you know, I got 90 days, and then he asked me to write this step one, and to keep it really, really simple. I can talk a really good recovery. I can think a really good recovery. You know, I can imagine a really good recovery. But when I write something down, and my hand is going across the page with the pen, and it's bullshit, it's my bullshit. No one's writing that bullshit for me. It's my bullshit. So when he set me those 15 questions, this is you clean, this is you when you pick up, this is you clean, this is... There's my evidence, not anyone else's evidence, not some sort of convoluted theory about what this is or what it isn't. It's just there in black and white. Step one. I'm powerless over my addiction. And my life being unmanageable, that was clear. But the unmanageability of my feelings became clear as well. The unmanageability of my capacity to deal with life on life's terms. The unmanageability of my capability to interact with other people. My lack of capacity for honesty. But when you put it in really simple terms and you write it down on a piece of paper and you're writing it, and I'm not doing it because I'm in treatment and they say if you do step one you can go to the shops, you know, there's no carrot. They're not dangling, no one's dangling anything in front of me. This is about self-empowerment and me admitting to myself. There's no point in admitting it to other people if I don't believe it. That's just bullshit, you know. But that simple first step one that I did 12.5 years ago is imprinted on my eyelids. It hasn't gone away, you know, just for today, you know. And that's why I'm still here, because I know, you know. I don't need to know why I'm an addict. I spent years trying to figure that one out, you know, some kind of like deeply kind of, oh, what is it? Because the fact of the matter is that for whatever reason, when I pick up, I can't stop. Cigarettes, porn, money, whatever, cream cakes, chamomile tea. If it fundamentally changes how I feel, I'm all over it like a fucking rash, you know. It's got better over the years, thankfully. It's got better through having a sponsor and through sponsoring other men. It's got better through revisiting the steps. It's got better through having a home group that I've been there for 11.5 years. It's got better from making some mistakes. Lots of mistakes, some more catastrophic than others, but the one mistake I haven't made is I haven't believed the bullshit that this time it will be different. And I'll finish on this. What I never thought would happen, what I thought this was going to be about was going to be like a daily trudge through life of like fucking wanting to use and just feeling like, oh my God. It's been the polar opposite of that. Been the polar opposite of that. You know, when that admission, that final kind of surrender kicked in, it was like, do you know what? I've got the one thing that I always wanted. I feel all right. I feel part of something. I feel okay within my own skin. I don't miss any of that shit. I don't want to drink. I don't want to use. I'm a musician. I'm surrounded by it. I've got no interest. You know, the potential to become who we are, who we were always meant to be, is what happens here. Once we admit in step one that there is no other way. Have a nice Sunday, everyone.